Hello and welcome to Epiphytic Cacti. Today we're going to look at monster plants. We buy plants and we think, oh, how cute. It's harmless, right? A harmless, beautiful little plant. But the thing that we forget is that they grow and they grow and they grow. So I figured we would take a little stroll down memory lane today and look at how some of my plants used to be versus what they are today. Just a few short years ago, Rhipsalis paradoxa was started from these two cute little cuttings. And then later on, I purchased this small little plant. Today, she's over 5 feet long. I can no longer hang her from the ceiling without her dragging all over the floor and getting all dirty. My water bill keeps going up and up and up because she's so thirsty. She's already in an 8-inch pot, but she should probably be moved up to a 10 or maybe even 12-inch. And while I realize that I should probably just cut some of her limbs off and fill out the pot some more, that'll just make it grow even bigger. The scariest thing about this plant, though, is that while it's this big, it barely blooms. This sweet little baby used to be so cute, just an adorable little bush of a plant. This is Rhipsalis teres, form prismatica, and you wouldn't know it by looking at it today. Just after a few short months, she grew one big long arm, and then she just never stopped growing big long arms. It's just this monstrously long, gangly, bizarre-looking creature that just grows everywhere. She's over 8 feet long. Unfortunately, I have to hang her branches as well as her pot so she doesn't drag all over the floor. I trip over her all the time. I step on her every time I pick up the pot. It's horrifying. Just about a year ago, I had to repurchase an adorable Strophocactus Wittii because, sadly, I murdered the first one. Very tragic. And I expected it to grow very slowly. But no, I had this bright idea of putting it in an IKEA greenhouse cabinet. And now it looks more like some kind of terrifying deep sea creature. I slightly regret putting that IKEA greenhouse cabinet in my bedroom. I have to sleep with this thing at night, staring at me. Even my own children have turned into gigantic monsters with arms exceeding 3 feet long. But the real problem is that there's hundreds of them that are all screaming for attention, screaming to be repotted, screaming to be fed, screaming to be watered. It's just too many children. Even the smallest, most unassuming plants can be deceiving. It needed to be grafted, they said. Can't grow on its own. Hatiora, salicornioides, form cylindrica. It can grow on its own, and grow it does. Grows and grows and grows. And worse than that, because it's one of my favorite species, I feel compelled to have like 20 of them. They just keep expanding into these giant bouncy bushes. And even when they start trying to get all dramatic and dropping their phylloclades from being over or underwatered, it doesn't really matter because they just grow back. But wait, you say, doesn't that species have a cousin? Hatiora salicornioides, form salicornioides? Well, yes it does. And that one also grows into a giant, bouncy, dangly bush. And yes, I also felt compelled to have like 20 of those too. This one is especially creepy, growing all gnarled and wild with these long, dangly, bushy, branchy arms. They were so cute just a few years ago, and look at them now, monstrous, and literally dying of thirst. Remember that time I did a video about Rhipsalis trigona and identification, and it was like a couple of sad little sticks stuck in a pot. Well, this is what it looks like today. It's really interesting because sometimes I look at this plant and I think, gosh, grow faster. Why are you so small? But then I look back at what the original plant was just a few years ago, and I'm like, slow down, slow down. There was also that one time, I think maybe the only time, that I did a repotting video of Pfeiffera santamariensis. It's a few years ago now, and that's kind of how they started. But this plant has seriously been through hell and back. I scorched the shit out of it to the point that I had to cut off almost all of its arms. And it somehow, miraculously, as plants will do, grew back into this lovely monster. This is like my cousin It plant. This is the plant that I pet the most. There was also that time that I did a Lepismium cruciforme video. But what I didn't know was how out of control Lepismium cruciforme could get. It's rare that I will chop up a plant because it's so out of control. But I chopped up this plant because it was so out of control and restarted it. And it's already starting to get out of control again. And they all do it. All of them. It doesn't matter what they look like, if they have flat branches or 3-angled branches or 5-angled branches or even spirally slinky looking branches. It doesn't matter. They're all out of control. And I bought every different looking specimen possible. And then there's the Schlumbergera. Oh God, the Schlumbergera. You have to have them all, you know. You have to collect every last hybrid possible. You need them all. The double flowering hybrids, the buckleyies. Oh God, the exoticas. Oh, the queens. Every last one of them. But they grow. And then they grow and they grow and they grow and they just keep growing and they get huge and nobody tells you that they can get like 20 feet wide. I mean, you're starting them from like a 2-glade cutting. It just doesn't make sense. They're supposed to be cactus, you know? Cactus. After 4 long years, one of my earliest Rhipsalis finally flowered. And I was finally able to determine that it's just Rhipsalis pachyptera. It just keeps getting longer and longer, but it still doesn't really flower very much. Surprise, surprise. Another Rhipsalis teres form making this video. Rhipsalis teres form heteroclada. Another one that started out like a cute little bush. And then it started to grow arms, short, chubby arms, a lot of short, chubby arms. And it just keeps growing more short, chubby arms. Speaking of chubby arms, Rhipsalis neves-armandii form megalantha has the chubbiest arms. And you can see how small and chubby they used to be. And actually, true story, there's about 4 plants like that in this pot because I kept buying it mislabeled, which is scary in and of itself. But what's more scary is how surprisingly quickly this thing grows, and it just keeps getting bigger. Remember that time that I did that Rhipsalis closet tour video? And everybody really liked it. And everybody really kept asking me where I got those plant stands from. I'm here to tell you that with Rhipsalis, those plant stands won't last more than a year. Now I have a whole entire Rhipsalis basement. And let's be honest, I have a whole entire Rhipsalis house. And the scariest part about this time of year is having to move all of these plants inside. Have a safe and happy Halloween, and as always, happy cacti growing.